So now that we have our animation all nice and set up, we do want to put our After Effects puppet tool into 3D space for this animation because we do want to have a nice virtual camera motion so we can get this kind of cool parallaxing effect. If we don't have this, our animation, yes, it'll still look cool, but it won't get that full kind of nice animation digital feel. So we're going to go ahead and let's put all of our layers here into 3D space. Pretty much what this does is says, hey, I want them to be able to be moved in 3D space, rotated, and that sort of thing. So what we're going to do is before we can create a camera, let's go ahead and put these guys into 3D space so that we know where our depth of each image is. So we know our background would be furthest back, our woman would be probably decently back, this lady would probably be further back than her, this candle and table with her arm would be closest, and then this bag would be almost closer still. So what we're going to do is I'm going to change my active camera here to not only be seen in one view, but in two views. You can pick two views, horizontal or vertical. I'm going to choose horizontal. You can also do four views if you like, but for what we're going to be doing, two views works perfectly well. So what happens now is we have our top view and our active camera. Our active camera is what we are going to be rendering through, at least till we build our actual virtual camera. So what we want to do is I want to click on this background fixed, and I just want to move it a little backwards in space. Since this is our background object, it will be moved farthest into our background, but you notice it does scale down. This is because it's moving far away in space, but it's not super duper large. So what we've got to do is take it and scale it right back up. If you hold down Shift, it should scale in tandem like so, so that you just want it to recover the whole background because where it scales down, we don't want it to accidentally show our hidden masked areas that we made with our clone tool. So the next thing we want to do, because our woman standing is the second above our background, we know she's second furthest from the camera. So I'm going to move her a little bit backwards, and we will have to do the same thing. We are going to click on our little arrows here, hold down Shift, and scale her up till she is back to her normal size, and her lower half here is back to being covered by the outside of our viewport. Next would be the woman sitting. She's probably just a little further back, probably nowhere near as far as the other woman. So we're just going to scoot her back a little and again scale her up just a hair. We're going to repeat that with our candle, which will probably be right about where we leave it. So we probably won't have to scale it up too much at all. But our bag will be just a hair forward. And again, we probably won't have to scale that up, but we might have to scale it just down a little bit. So now inside of our 3D space, we have our background, which is furthest away from our camera. We have our woman, which is next furthest, but still kind of close enough to our other lady. She is very close to the table where her arm is resting, and then that bag is resting on the table, so it's just a little bit closer than the other. So now that we have all of these in 3D space placed back into space, we can create our 3D virtual camera. So I'm going to right click down in this little area here. You can also go, I think, File and New Item, but right here is a little faster. So I'm going to go right click here. I'm going to go New, and I'm just going to click on Camera because we want to create a virtual 3D camera. Now, for this class, specifically for Principles of Visual Effects, having this basic camera here works perfectly well. If you're working on a project and you know that there's a different type of camera they're going to be using, you may definitely change any of these angle of views, your film size, the focal length, etc. You can also enable depth of field and zooming. But I'm just going to do our standard basic camera. And when I click on this, it comes in with this kind of pink or red layer depending on your settings. And so I have it here, and if I click and move it so it zooms in, you'll see we get this kind of parallax effect when I move it to the right and left. The background stays and our woman kind of shifts around. I'm very exaggerating this so that you can see this motion. So what we're going to do is I am not going to put keyframes on my camera. I do this because if I want to change anything about my camera, I don't want to accidentally mess up and have to restart from scratch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually parent my camera to a null object. So I'm going to right click down in here click New, and do a null object. So null objects are really cool and versatile because pretty much they're just empty objects that allow you to put other things and keyframe other things on them to get the exact look you're looking for. Why are you shrunk again? Be big. There we go. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this camera and I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to take my little pilly whip here and I want to parent my camera to this null. So you can see on here it says hold shift to move layer to location of parent, hold alt to retain child transform. Those are just other things that you can do. For this exact thing, I'm not worried about moving my null to a different layer. I want the camera to just be following the null. I don't want my camera to be moved to its location. So for this null here, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to make sure it's in 3D space. I'm going to go into its transform, and all I'm going to do is at the very beginning of my timeline here, I'm going to keyframe its anchor point, position, scale, orientation, and all its rotations, but I'm not going to worry about its opacity. Pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, at this point in time, I want you to start at this location, and then by the end of our animation, I just want you to zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to take my null, and I'm just going to zoom it in just a little, and then I might pop it over a little bit, or I might rotate it. So I'm going to come over here and maybe rotate my null, not far, maybe like 2. Just a little bit of rotation to kind of give the appearance that we're moving. So if I go back to the beginning, let it cache through, we'll have a little bit of that push and rotate to get the idea that our camera is moving in this 3D space. For your project too, this is very important to really pull off and sell that this 2D animation is moving in 3D space.